general, there are two types of people in the world. There are some people who like to feel emotionally connected before having sex. And there are some people who have sex as a way to feel emotionally connected. How to stop being defensive in my marriage?
Ooh, that's a $1 million question right there.
Just learned about the death grip. My man definitely does it. How do I help? So, Xander, can you explain what the death grip is? Hello and welcome to the Pillow Talks podcast. We're your hosts, Vanessa
And Xander Marin.
I'm a sex therapist with over 20 years of experience.
And I'm just a regular dude. We share the ups and downs in our relationship while giving you step-by-step techniques for improving yours.
Make sure you subscribe for your weekly double date full of totally doable sex tips, practical relationship advice, hilarious and honest stories of what really goes on behind closed bedroom doors, and so much more. It's the sex education you wish you'd had. So every Sunday on Instagram, we do Ask Us Anything Day. We put up a little question box, we take people's questions, and we do our very best to answer as many as we can. But lately, the questions have been out of control.
There's so many
good questions. It's so hard to pick which ones to answer. So I've been saving a little backlog of questions that we just didn't get around to on a particular Sunday for a particular reason, but I really wanted to come back to them. And eventually the backlog got so big that I thought, you know what, we should just do a whole episode about it. So today we're going to be going through questions about sexual frustration. We've got some stuff about defensiveness, maybe even the death grip. I've got a big old list. We'll just see how many we get through.
Yeah, let's crank them out, babe.
And if you're not following us on Instagram, you definitely should be. We're at Vanessa and Xander, at Xander with an X. So you'll get all the Sunday stories, but also get a chance to contribute to these podcast episodes. We always do a ton of polls and research for these episodes. So come on over and join us over there. But before we get into the episode today, we have an announcement.
Yeah.
I'm laughing now because we have family
that
dinner.
Came out weird.
We have family dinner with my family every week. And my mom always asks every week, like, does anybody have an announcement? And we always make fun of her because it sounds so formal and strange. Like,
she also asks it in a very leading way, as if there is an assumption that someone is hiding an announcement that they're not making. Every single week, it's like she says it as if she knows that there is an announcement, and she's trying to like goad you into giving it, but I'm like, I don't know, I don't have one this week.
I fall for it every week. I'm like, ooh, who has the announcement this week? But we actually do have an announcement. Probably not one that we would share at family dinner, but we have an announcement that you will like, which is that we have a brand new freebie. We are always trying to make new free guides for you guys, and we're really excited about this one. It is all about the initiation styles model.
Ooh, yeah.
So this is a model that we developed when we were writing our New York Times bestselling book, Sex Talks, the 5 conversations that will transform your love life. And we have a whole section on initiation. And I wanted to describe the different ways that people like to be initiated with. I think a lot of people have heard of the love languages model. It's the same sort of idea that we all like to give and receive love in different ways. We all like to have sex initiated in different ways. And so if we don't know our own style, if we can't communicate that style with our partner, we're going to be really missing each other and probably initiating in ways that our partner actually isn't going to be super receptive to. So if your partner has ever initiated sex with you in a way that made your eyes roll, made you cringe, gave you the ick, or if you've ever initiated with your partner and didn't get a great response from them.
Or even if it's just like a meh situation, like, the way my partner initiates, I'm like, I could go either way. Or you're initiating and you're like, it doesn't really seem like my partner enjoys this. They're not actively turned off. Like maybe they're still saying yes, but it's not eliciting the type of response that you want. This is what you need to figure out, is what your and your partner's initiation styles are.
I mean, honestly, everybody needs this. Even if you feel like you're doing a pretty good job with initiation, it's not a big deal for you. Like understanding your style and being able to talk about that with your partner, it can be so fun to talk about, and it can really up-level initiation. So Everybody needs this, and we are giving it away to you absolutely for free. I know we make a lot of silly reels over on Instagram showing the bad initiation type styles, like the boob honk or just like coming up and humping against your back. And people are always like, okay,
what's the answer? What's the right
one?
one?
The bad ones, but give us the good ways to initiate. So that is all in this free guide.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why we don't have an Instagram reel being like, here is the way to initiate is because there are initiation styles. And so there is no one way. It's that I can't tell you, like in your specific situation right now with the partner that you have, what the right way for you is to initiate, unless I know what your initiation style is and what your partner's initiation style is. So that's why you don't see us making that content. Like, here's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
There's a whole plethora of right ways to do it for certain people. So this is why it's so important for you to figure out what you are and what your partner is. And then it starts to become pretty obvious what types of approaches will and won't work.
So we put a link to that free guide in the show notes, or you can go straight to vmtherapy.com/styles to grab it. That's vmtherapy.com/styles for the free initiation styles guide.
All right, so before we get into all these great questions, I just got to give a little plug for our review of the week. If you haven't left us a review, we would love it so much if you could leave us, ideally, a 5-star review. If you love our podcast.
Don't leave us a review if it's going to be a 1-star. Just keep that to yourself.
Yeah, just, maybe move on to another podcast. But no, if you love Pillow Talks, we would love it if you could leave us a review, because reviews are the best way for our podcast to grow. And so we want to reward people who do leave reviews, who do love Pillow Talks. And so what we do every week is we pick a random review from Apple Podcasts. We read it aloud. If you hear yours read aloud, we'll give you a free masterclass. All you have to do is DM us on Instagram or email us at info@vmtherapy.com. So here is this week's winner, Sexcellent. My title is cheesy, but this podcast is excellent. I wanted to learn about making sex in a relationship great, healthy, and strong. Vanessa and Xander are genuine, smart, knowledgeable, fun, and challenging, everything you want your podcast hosts to be. I've learned so much and had fun doing it. They've taken me from confused and doubtful about sex being anything but a conflict in a relationship to being equipped to make it a tremendous strength. Know it's important to talk about, given me tools and techniques I need to succeed. Listen to Pillow Talks. It's my favorite podcast, and I can't recommend it more enthusiastically.
Oh, that's a really sweet one.
Thank you
so much for taking the time.
That is so awesome. And I think that's like really what we feel like we are on this earth to do is sex does for so many people. It sadly feels like something that really doesn't do that much. And, if anything, it is like a detraction from what feels like the good stuff in your relationship. And it doesn't have to be that way.
So this is that time of the year that's usually really tricky for me when it comes to sleeping. It's cold, but I don't want to get like too hot and sweaty. I just can't get my body temperature regulated at night, which is why I love Cozy Earth's bamboo sheet sets. Cozy Earth sheets are made with ultra soft materials, and they are temperature regulating. You will sleep several degrees cooler. We have been sleeping on Cozy Earth sheets for quite some time now, and this time of year, it is not a struggle for me. I'm sleeping cool all year round. If you're somebody who wants your bed to feel so luxurious, just like the ultimate softness, drapiness, comfort, then you really have to check out Cozy Earth sheets. They are seriously the softest sheets you are ever going to find. And they're sustainably crafted as well, which is really important to us. Their bamboo sheets bring you the luxury of a 5-star hotel in your own bedroom. And we have an incredible deal for you today. You can get 40% off your purchase at cozyearth.com/pillowtalks or use our code pillowtalks. Now, when you check out, you might see a post-purchase survey, so please let them know you heard about them from Pillow Talks. Cozy Earth makes incredible sheets, but they also have a ton of other products too. They make bathroom linens, they make clothing. So if you just want to be soft all day, every day, They have pajamas, they have t-shirts, joggers, slippers. Like there's so many different products and literally just the ultimate supreme softness. So head on over to cozyearth.com/pillow talks or use our code pillow talks for that whopping 40% off discount. Stay cozy all winter long with Cozy Earth. Okay, let's get into these questions. So Xander and I have not discussed our responses to these at all. I don't think you even know what's coming.
No, you're gonna get the Xander regular dude hot take on these.
Raw and unfiltered.
I'm gonna raw dog these questions, babe.
Okay, why don't you read the first one?
All right, my husband was groping me in his sleep. How do I address this?
Okay, so this is something that not many people know even exists.
Including us before it started happening in our relationship.
It did. So this is called sexsomnia. Some people will initiate sex while they're sleeping. So it's just like sleepwalking. You know, people might get up and walk around. People have done weird thing. I remember we did
people get into all kinds of trouble sleeping.
All kinds of trouble sleeping. I know we did a prompt on Instagram once, and the one that always sticks out at me, it was like, what's the weirdest thing you or your partner has ever done in your sleep? The one that always sticks out to me is someone baked an entire pie from scratch. But the best part of it was they said, I'm not even a baker. I've never baked a pie before in my life.
But did it come out good?
I never heard that detail.
I know, they didn't give us that detail, man. I mean, this also gets me thinking. We were listening to an Armchair Anonymous episode recently about sleepwalking, and there were some wild stories of what people did in their sleep. Like one guy like jumped out of a glass window.
Yeah, it's bad. So anyways, people also will initiate sex with their partner in their sleep.
Or just grope. I guess it's unclear from this question. Like, is your husband initiating sex or is he just groping?
Do you want to tell the story of how it happened to us?
I mean, I guess how it happened to us was similar. I mean, I don't really know because I don't really remember the beginning of it. But this was pretty early on in our relationship.
Like
first
2008,
first 5 years.
Maybe? Yeah.
First 5 years of our relationship. For sure. I know, where we were living. So that kind of like keys in the timing. For me, it was a time of very high work stress. I think that, I was generally dysregulated. A lot of stress, not enough sleep, not like consistent sleep. And I woke up in the middle of the night one night and Vanessa and I were starting to have sex. Well, wait, let me back it up. I woke up and I was having sex with somebody and it was fucking hot. And for a moment it was like, oh my God, who am I having sex with? But like, I'm in the middle, like I can't stop, but like, wait, like, is this wrong? Is this right? And then for a second, I kind of had this flash of, oh, okay, I'm like half asleep. This is my wife, Vanessa. This is okay. She seems to be into this. Like, let's keep going. And by the time we finished very quickly, I think. And then it was like, whoa, what happened?
Yeah, for me, it was one of the sexiest experiences of my life because I had that same experience of you where I didn't know who it was, but it was in a sexy, safe way. It didn't feel like scary or out of control or anything like that.
Yeah, that's how it felt for me too. It was like, oh my God, this is so hot. And then there was sort of this question of, is that okay? Like, I'm married. Wait, no, this is my wife. It's okay.
Yeah. And it ended up, being super, super sexy. I really enjoyed it. And I was very sad that you stopped doing it and haven't done it for like 15 years.
It happened a couple of times, probably like 3 or 4 times, I think. Over a couple month period,
it happens most often when people are experiencing high stress. We don't have a ton of research on it. We don't know a ton about it, but it tends to happen most often when people are in really high stress situations. So for us, it was a very fun, very sexy experience. But for other people, it absolutely is not necessarily. And of course, the big issue that it brings up is consent. You know, if somebody is asleep and they're starting something, you're not getting an active consent from your partner, or at least, the two of you aren't on the same page. And so for a lot of people, this can feel scary. This can feel out of control and really unsafe. So I don't know what the vibe was for this specific person. they didn't say, you know, this really upset me or it didn't feel good for me. So I don't know if it was more just a like, is this weird, or is he, I've heard other people ask, like, is my husband pretending to be asleep because he doesn't want that vulnerability of actually initiating?
Yeah, I think a lot of people make that assumption if it is happening, because like I'm just gonna make a assumption that what's happening in this situation is like he's literally just groping her, like he's starting to touch her, he's starting to grab at her. I'm guessing it's not leading to anything else. Like maybe she's sort of pushing him away. He didn't wake up fully, so he's not aware of it. But I think that this happens to a lot of people, and yeah, they do assume, oh yeah, no, he's awake, he's just pretending that he's asleep. And I think that actually happens very rarely. I mean, if you're ever doing that, like, please don't do that. Please initiate, like, just talk about it. Yeah. Don't pretend that you're asleep. But I think we can assume 99.9% of the time, if this is happening, they are truly asleep. They have no idea what's happening unless you wake them up.
Ooh, I don't know if I'd be that confident in the 99.9%.
Okay,
but
over 99% of the time.
Okay, so here's what I would do. And again, not knowing if this is something that's upsetting to you or not, but I would talk to your husband about it when he's awake. And I would say something like, hey, do you realize that you've been touching me in your sleep? You can listen to this episode with him if you want to, or you can Google sexsomnia together and look at it together and talk about, you know, what the experience is like for you. So ultimately, what your experience is the most important. If this is something that feels upsetting and scary to you, then it may be worth talking to his doctor, talking to a sleep specialist. In extreme cases, some couples have stopped sleeping in the same beds together. So if it's something that is not feeling good to you, that's of the utmost importance. But if it's more like, you know, oh, it's just sort of funny that my partner's grabbing at my boobs in his sleep, then just know it's a normal thing. It does happen to some people. It, you know, you can just grab his hand and move it off if you don't want him to be touching you. You can lean into it and maybe try to be intimate if you are excited by it and enjoying it. But yeah, I guess I'm having a hard time like saying what you should do since I don't know how the person feels about it.
Yeah, no, but I agree with you. The very first thing to address, if you are aware of it, you obviously are, he is not aware of it, we assume that he is not, is to just bring it up. Hey, like, I just want you to know this has happened a couple of times. Then share how you actually feel about it. If you're like, I love this, like, hey, would you be open to me kind of like participating with you?
Taking it a step further?
Yeah, then you know what to do. If you are kind of so about it, I think just share like, you know, hey, this is like, I don't love this. I'm not like, doesn't feel like a violation, but I'm not really open to having sex in the middle of the night. Then you could ask, that could open the door to, hey, so like, what do you want me to do if this happens in the moment? Because I think then it's like, you know, it's kind of like leading him to the question of, hey, so if this happens, are you okay with me like giving you a shake or something to wake you up? Because that's going to be the way to end it.
Yeah.
Is he's got to wake up. There's no way that you can like reach him in his dreams and be like, hey, dream partner, you got to stop that. Right. Like you got to wake him up. So, you know, I think you might be thinking, oh, well, like, I don't want to like wake him up because he's asleep. So just talk about that, like get his consent to, hey, if this is happening, you know, because he's probably going to be like, if you're not into it, he's probably going to be like, oh my God, I don't want to be.
Yeah,
I don't want to be doing that to you. Like, why would he want to be doing that to you if you're not enjoying it? And then, yeah, if you are actively, like, if that is really like triggering to you or turning you off, then I mean, I think, yeah, like what you said, talking to a specialist, but certainly saying, hey, like, I am not okay with this. I know, like I know that you can't help it in that moment, but like, I'm going to wake you up immediately, or like, you know, maybe I'll have to remove myself from the bed or something like that. But yeah.
So here at Pillow Talks, it's really important to us to really go there, talk about all the vulnerable stuff that nobody else talks about. So let's talk about wiping your butt.
Let's do it.
With today's podcast sponsor, Good Wipes. They create premium wipes that deliver superior clean that no dry, crumbly toilet paper can match.
Crumbly, wow.
You know, sometimes it gets crumbling.
It does. And actually, Good Wipes are a great solution to removing the crumbles, if you know what I mean.
They're infused with soothing botanicals like aloe, vitamin E, and chamomile. They are naturally scented and hypoallergenic. They're gentle enough for sensitive skin, yet powerful enough to leave you feeling fresh, confident, and completely clean. So we've been testing them out. They sent over all of their scents. They have rose water, shea cocoa, lavender, cedar, and botanical bliss. And like I said, these are naturally scented. There are no artificial fragrances in here.
I
And
gotta say, I love the cedar.
yeah, you
I
did.
I finished my cedar, and I'm on to a different one, and I'm a cedar man.
Okay. I know. Xander was like, can we order another package of these? But I just really love that they are made without any harsh chemicals, no parabens, no dyes. I am really conscious about the ingredients that I'm putting on my skin, especially in those sensitive places. So I really appreciate their commitment to making high quality products. If you want to upgrade your restroom ritual, you can grab Good Wipes at Target, Walmart, Kroger, and most local grocery stores. Just head to the toilet paper aisle and look for their bright aqua, rose, and emerald packages. They're also available on Amazon if you're more of an online shopper. Okay, next question. Just learned about the death grip. My man definitely does it. How do I help? So Xander, can you explain what the death grip is?
All right, the death grip is when a man has.
Oh, are you demonstrating it now?
Yeah, sure. The death grip is when a man, when he masturbates, uses a extremely tight grip.
Mm-hmm.
So, when men masturbate, obviously they put their hand around their penis and, they're
I hope
they're
you're
doing
watching
it.
on YouTube right
I
now.
hope you're watching on YouTube. This is what YouTube
Xander's
is
air
for.
jacking over here.
In case you didn't know how men masturbate, it's like this.
And in case you didn't know that we are now on YouTube, episodes,
We are.
full video on YouTube. We're staring at 3
Hi.
cameras right
Hi.
now. We are over on YouTube, full video. But yes, death grip.
So
Very
I
tight.
think that, death grip, I think, is something that often develops over time of like the guy starting to grip tighter and tighter. Now, the problem is when you grip tighter and tighter and tighter, you start to acclimate to that level of pressure. And once you are grabbing tighter, then you can then the tightness you would achieve from a vagina. Then when you have sex with anything but your extremely tight hand, you are going to struggle to orgasm or even feel very much stimulation because you've literally trained your body to only respond to a really tight pressure that's just not achievable by anything other than your own hand.
Yeah, we all need to be thoughtful about our masturbation habits because if we are doing the same thing over and over and over again when we masturbate, and there's no, right or wrong way to masturbate, but if you're doing the same thing over and over again, whether that's a specific technique, a specific pressure, a specific speed, always using a same fantasy, always using a toy,
always watching the same porn.
Yeah. You're essentially training your brain to want more of that or to only respond to that. There's a saying that goes, the neurons that fire together wire together. So you start creating a pattern. And it's not anything that you can't reverse, but you can start creating a pattern where your body just wants to go down that same pathway to orgasm every single time.
Yeah, you absolutely can reverse that. You can kind of unwire those things, but you can't in the moment. You can't immediately.
Yeah.
So you can't be like, oh yeah, you just do this one thing and all of a sudden you can feel all kinds of stimulation on your penis. So I think that, how you can help is talk to him about it because he's probably not aware that this is a thing. Now,
yeah, not everybody's aware of the death grip. So I'm guessing that this person wrote in because their partner's experiencing some sort of performance issues, likely he's not having orgasms with his partner, or maybe
taking a really long time.
Yeah, he could be taking a really long time. He could be not getting there at all. He could be needing to pull out and finish himself off with his hand. So any of those things might be happening. And I'm guessing that that's feeling, frustrating or unwanted to their partner.
Yeah, or probably to the both of you. I don't think this is not a pleasant experience for, the guy to have either, though he may not be aware of that.
So these can be sensitive situations, though, because, it's not your body. So approaching your partner about it, about their masturbation habits, about using the death grip, that can be really sensitive. You don't want your partner to feel ashamed or embarrassed. You don't want to put them on the spot. So like if I was going to come to you to talk about this, what kind of language would you want me to use? How would you want me to say it?
Ooh, this is a good question. I mean, I think that I think that I would start like I wouldn't do this in an accusatory way. I mean, this person says you just learned about the death grip. My man does it. I mean, I'm curious. Do you like? How do you know? Have you like observed him doing it? Has he mentioned it? If he's mentioned that before, then I think that the conversation is a bit easier. Is you be like, oh, hey, like I've been learning a little bit more about this. Like I'm wondering if you might be open to adjusting some of your habits so that we might be able to kind of like unwind this a little bit. And I would frame it as so that we can both, have more intimacy when we're having sex, so that we can both, have, more of the experience of not finishing together as in simultaneous orgasm, but like, just being able to continue the intercourse longer. Cause I'm assuming that's what you're wanting out of this. Now, if your partner doesn't know about it, I think that it would be more of a like, hey, so like I've been learning about, I've been researching some of this stuff around, because in this case, what's coming up, I assume, is, it's sort of like delayed orgasm or like you needing to pull out and finish yourself with your hand. I've been doing some research about this and I'm curious, I found out about this thing called death grip. I'm curious, like, when you masturbate, like, are you using a really tight grip? Because this is something that can impact these things that are coming up.
If I told you I've been doing some research, I think you'd get embarrassed by like, oh fuck, she's like doing research because I'm doing so bad. I was thinking more along the lines of just saying, oh, hey, that podcast that I listened to, Pillow Talk, they were talking about the death grip this week and I'd never heard about that before. Do you know what that is? Maybe trying to make it sound a little more innocent rather than like, I've been doing research because I have been unhappy with your sexual performance.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's merge the two.
Do you think that's better?
That feels a little leading if you're just like, oh, just heard about this. What do you think?
Definitely don't giggle like that.
No, I think somewhere in the middle is better. You could be like, hey, you know what? I just heard about this thing on this podcast. I'd never heard about it before. It has a kind of funny name. But then I realized that it can have some pretty like serious implications on, on our sex life together. I'm curious if you've ever heard of this. And, if this is something that you might do when you're masturbating.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because leading with curiosity, not accusatory. Hey, you're doing this and you're ruining our sex life. Mm-hmm. That's not what you want to be saying. It's more of it's like, oh, hey, I just learned about this thing. Obviously, like everybody masturbates differently. I even if I watch you masturbate, I can't tell what pressure you're using. The only way to know is by feeling, right? So like, yeah. Just curious if this is something that you've ever done or noticed.
I don't know. I think I'd be able to tell. You're like really squeezing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That face. Now I don't want there to be full video of that face. That was a horrible face. That's going to be the thumbnail for our YouTube episode. Oh,
Can't wait. I can already see it.
Ugh. Okay, why don't we move on to the next one?
And the thumbnail will have on your side
my
you doing that
disgusted
tongue
face.
out thing.
Like, please
yeah, that's
don't,
good.
Please don't make that face ever again. Finished Onyx Storm and feeling desperate for more? We have all been there, but don't worry, you can find your next obsession on Dipsea. From fiery fae princes to forbidden love stories that will sweep you off your feet, Dipsea's spicy audiobooks will fill that Onyx Storm-sized hole in your heart. If you've never heard of Dipsea before, they are incredible. They are a female-founded app for spicy audiobooks and more, created by women for the female gaze. The app has over 1,000 spicy audiobooks, all crafted by a team of professional writers and top-tier narrators. And they literally have everything. Stories about rugged cowboys, maybe you're looking for some Scottish sailors, some fae royalty, gods of the underworld. You will find any character that you want on Dipsea. Their app is so easy to explore, so easy to use. New chapters are released every week, so you can always find something new to enjoy. And we have an amazing offer from Dipsea. Just for listeners of Pillow Talks, you can try Dipsea for an extended 30-day free trial. So there's literally nothing to use. Just check it out. See if you enjoy it. See if it lights a little unexpected fire for you. 30 days for free when you go to dipseastories.com/pillow. That is 30 days of full access for free when you go to dipseastories.com/pillow, dipseastories.com/pillow.
All right, moving on. I'm doing chores and he wants me to stop and cuddle. How can I say no but not be the bad guy?
I loved this question when it came through because there's so many different layers to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately tried to imagine myself in that situation. Like, let's say I'm doing the dishes. I feel like the dishes is like the classic time that this comes up. I'm doing the dishes and you're coming up behind me and you're trying to be all cute and sweet and like get me to stop doing the dishes and just be with you. So part of my brain goes, I love that. Like, it's so easy in life for us to get so sucked into our chores, so caught up with the daily grind, the to-do list, doing all the things. I think it's really sweet sometimes to have your partner pull you out of those moments and say, like, be here with me right now. I just want to have a moment with you. Like, let's hold each other. Let's make eye contact. Like, just that reminder of you and I are ultimately what's the most important thing in the world.
Yeah, that being said,
the other side of me knows that it would be really fucking annoying sometimes to have you do that. Like, it would totally bring up irritation, frustration. Like, dude, I'm in the middle of this. Like, let me finish what I'm doing. And definitely, if I'm feeling like there's an imbalance in mental load or responsibilities, like if I'm feeling resentful, like I'm washing the fucking dishes again because he forgot to do it, or he said he was going to, but they're still here. If I'm annoyed at you, if I'm feeling like I'm doing more than my fair share, then I'm definitely going to get really frustrated in that moment.
Oh, yeah,
like,
that's the first thing you're going to think about.
Yeah. And I also, there's something that makes me really nervous about this person saying, how can I say no but not be the bad guy? Like, is that you judging yourself, saying like, I'm not allowed to say no, I'm going to be bad if I'm not allowed to cuddle? Or is that your partner putting pressure on you? Because I'm also not cool with that. If your partner tries to interrupt you to cuddle and you say no and your partner's making you feel guilty or bad or like something's wrong with you, I'm not okay with that either. So I really see it going both ways. I think ultimately, though, this is a great conversation for couples to have with each other.
Yes.
They're like, do you feel open to me interrupting you when you're in the middle of something? Does that feel romantic to you? Does that feel sexy to you? Does that feel sweet to you? Or does it feel disruptive?
I mean, that's one of the questions that we ask right at the beginning of our course, Art of Initiation. We have like a whole list of questions and scenarios that are essential for every couple to have discussed. And one of them is, in the middle of chores or in the middle of specific chores, are you okay with being interrupted or not? Because different people are going to have very different perspectives on this. Yeah. For some people, it's like, hell yeah, interrupt me whenever. I love it.
Yeah.
Like it's validation. That feels great.
Ooh, the validation piece is really important because for some people that feels really good. It's this sense of like, I can't even wait for you to be finished with those dishes. Like, I want to hold you right now. Like, it can feel super sexy and romantic in that way.
But it could also feel invalidating when you bring the mental load thing into it. It's like this motherfucker doesn't even realize that like I'm doing way more than my fair share. He's not it's not even picking up the slack. Like, he's not delivering on his side of the bargain, and now he wants to like try to cuddle. It feels like it's just all about him. Yeah. And there's no, like, you're not being seen for what you're doing or contributing. Yeah. And so that validation piece is like, because like the other partner could be like, oh well, I'm just trying to validate you. And it's like, you got to be able to describe how that either feels positive validating or invalidating to you?
So I think step one is you have to make sure you guys are feeling good about how you're dividing responsibilities and mental load. That has to be in place. Otherwise, no interruptions. I would say, though, a nice middle ground. So have that conversation. Ask your partner, do you like to be interrupted or not? But a nice middle ground would be, let's say you walk into the room, you see me doing the dishes. If you would say to me, like, I would love to hold you and kiss you right now. Can I interrupt you? Like, just asking,
Mm-hmm.
can I interrupt you? And there might be some times where I'm like, yes, please. That's so sweet. I love that. Like, let me, wipe my hands off. And there might be other times where I would say, you know what? I just really want to finish these, but let me come find you as soon as I'm done. Or another thing that you could do is say, I want to hug you. I want to hold you right now. Let me help you finish those dishes up. Like, scoot on over, you do the washing, I'll do the rinsing. Like, make it feel like, let's finish this up together so that we can prioritize ourselves.
Yeah. So if you are the person who is doing the chore that is being interrupted, think about, would one of those sound better or worse to you? And, try to suggest the one that sounds the best to you. Say, hey, if you're feeling like you want to do this, this is the way that I will receive that the best. And yeah, I think another thing is, like, if you are the person that is wanting to interrupt your partner in the middle of chores, there is definitely an element of, you got to read the room here. Like, I'd evaluate what chore is she doing? Like, dishes, that's an interesting one, because it's like, I know I do the dishes often, and it's like, I don't like doing the dishes, but once you get started, you get into a groove, and you're like, oh yeah, now I'm gonna like.
That was a little too excited.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it does feel. It's funny. It does feel
I don't
good.
know, you did the
It feels good because I so never want to get started, but once I do, I'm a responsive. I'm a responsive dishwasher. Oh my god. Once I get started, I'm like, oh god. It just activates the dopamine in my brain, like, oh yeah, I'm going to finish these dishes. This sink is going to be clean as a whistle. So I know once you get started with that, you're like, oh man, like, if I stop now, then I'm going to have to start again. And the starting part is the part that sucks. Right? It's like, my hands are already wet. I'm like saturated with water. Like, or I got the gloves on. Like,
it's a dirty chore. Versus like, if I'm folding laundry or something, like, it's so much easier to just toss a towel down than it is to, like, the dish is half washed and then you put it down and you have to dry your hands, all that stuff. Yeah, it depends on the chore. And I think it depends, like, check your partner's mood as they're doing the chore. If they're like, hate scrubbing the dishes, like, oh, like, that's probably not the time to interrupt them. Versus if somebody's like, they put some music on and they're listening, jamming out while they're folding all the towels, that's probably a better time that you could approach them.
Yeah, and I think it's also like a judgment call of, is this a like a timely or like a high priority chore? Like, hey, like, we just had dinner and the kitchen is dirty and the sink is full of dishes. We have to do the dishes in order to be able to make our next meal. Like, then maybe that's not a good time to interrupt. Whereas if it's, I don't know, some other chore, I'm trying to think of like an unnecessary, not an unnecessary, but like not a, like, it has to happen right now. I don't know, like a random, like, oh, like cleaning the bathroom or something, where it's like, typically you don't clean the bathroom every single day, right? You clean the bathroom once a week, once every 2, something like that, where it's like, okay, maybe it doesn't have to happen right now in this moment. They are choosing to do it in this moment. So you could consider, like, okay, maybe don't interrupt them in these time sensitive ones. If it's something else, I mean, I still don't love the interrupting in the middle. Like, I would suggest saying to them, hey, you look so cute right now. I'm thinking about you. I love you so much. Like, I really want to squeeze you. And I'm curious if you're open to that right now. Or
let me help you finish it.
Let me help you finish. Or, hey, when you're done, could we spend some time together? Something like that, where you're giving them the validation of, hey, I'm thinking about you. I'm loving you right now. I want to be able to do this, rather than just coming in and doing it.
Okay, I'm very curious to hear what you're going to say on the spot about this one. How do you bounce back after a disappointing sexual experience?
Woo, this is an interesting question. I can think of a lot of shades of this. I think the first thing I want to say about this, because disappointing is like, was this like seriously disappointed? Did something go horribly wrong? Was something
No,
painful? Was this just a
my hunch
not
was just
ideal?
like, it just wasn't, it was
Not
like
the best?
mediocre sex. I mean, we'll say
Mediocre?
what we do.
What do we do?
Well, if we just have one that is just like, it's fine, a little bit of a dud, we're usually just like, hey, we got it done.
Yeah.
A little high five.
Yeah, I'd be like, not my finest work, but we did it.
I feel like we usually joke about it where we congratulate ourselves. We're like, you know what? We still did it. It was connecting. We, had that experience. Not every single time. I guess I want to start there. Like, let's back up for a second and let's just normalize that not every single time you have sex is going to be amazing. I think we have incredible, epic, next level sex. And sometimes we have experiences that are just kind of a dud. And like sometimes we can tell, sometimes ahead of time where we're both like, we're a little tired or just like not super feeling it, but we've both decided to have sex anyways.
Yeah, it's like, let's get this done.
Yeah, but sometimes it's like, it kind of surprises you out of nowhere. Like it seemed like the vibes were right and everything was going good. And then it just ends up being like, oh, that was like fine, but not as good as I thought it was going to be going in. So like, let's normalize. It's okay to have a dud every now and then. It's totally fine.
Yeah. The first thing I want to say is like, this is a mindset shift that I think is required. Yeah. This is a mindset problem. This is an acceptance problem. Like we need to be able to accept that sex is not always perfect. Mm-hmm. That if sex were always perfect, then that would just be average. Ooh. Right? Like the reason that we have good experiences is because there is a baseline or, a general, like an average. And that by having that allows us to be able to judge, oh, that was better than usual, or that was worse than usual, or less. I don't want to say worse, like worse sex. It was just like, not as good as it usually is. So I think that there's an acceptance piece that like, yeah, we're not fully in control of this. We can't have perfection all the time. Sometimes things will be better. Sometimes things will be worse. And it's like shifting your mindset to accept that this is the reality of sex in a long-term relationship. And so once you have that mindset shift, then it becomes a much easier to bounce back. I mean, in theory, once you have accepted that perspective, you don't really need to bounce back because it's there's nothing to bounce back from. Oh, that was just a normal sexual experience to have, that it was not the very best one I've ever had. Mm-hmm. So I think that perspective shift can be really helpful. Yeah. But yeah, and then that also, what you were saying, the acknowledging it, just the simple fact of, yeah, not, that wasn't our finest work together, but it was still, but then think of a compliment, make it a little compliment sandwich.
That's what I like about what we do is like, we just congratulate each other. Like, hey, you know what? We got it done. And it feels connecting rather than us feeling embarrassed or retreating to separate ends of the house or like, oh my God, I can't believe we had this disappointing sex. We turn it into a little lighthearted joke and like, hey, we did it. We got back in the saddle. We made that time, even though we didn't think we had it. Like, go us.
Hell yeah. Now, if it was like on the more serious end of disappointing, like there was something that was actively unpleasurable or painful or uncomfortable, that's not something where you just hold it in and expect to bounce back. Like that is where you got to have some kind of conversation about that, of saying, hey, when XYZ happened, that didn't feel very good for me. That didn't feel very safe for me. So.
Yeah. And I would suggest having that conversation outside of the bedroom at a later time. So don't do it immediately while you guys are still naked in the bed. Go out of the bedroom, loop back around to it and say like, hey, I wanted to talk about, what just happened.
Yeah. Unless you do need to stop in the moment. Like if you are like,
if we're talking about something much more serious.
Vanessa's not saying just grin and bear it and then talk about it later.
No. I mean, if we're talking something like in the middle, you're in pain or you're not feeling safe or whatever it is, like definitely stop it and talk about it then and there. But I'm talking more something much less serious. Like let's just say your partner tried out a new oral sex technique that you just like weren't really loving. I would say wait until you're outside of the bedroom and bring it up really gently and just say something like, hey, when XYZ happened, this is what I felt, or, next time I'd rather that we do this, or, I really appreciated that you tried that, but it just wasn't my jam.
Not my favorite one.
Yeah. So yeah, if there's something to learn, something to share with your partner, something that you want to do differently next time, of course, talk about it. But I think the vast majority of these situations are where it's just people are getting a little too in their heads, thinking they need to like optimize everything, when the reality is you're going to have times that just aren't the greatest. They're a little bit of a disappointment, and that's okay. Just roll on to the next one.
Yeah. So like, long story short, number one, like, accept that it will not always be perfect, that it is normal to have somewhat disappointing or not ideal experiences. Then after you have, had that mindset shift, if you are still feeling like, something happened that was like not just a normal sort of like, high or low, then bring that up and talk about that. All right, moving on. Is sexual frustration a real thing? I get standoffish if it's been a while.
This is such a good one too. Okay, so first I think we have to talk about the two types of people in the world. There are some people.
There's only two.
There's only two.
There's only two. Hard and fast rules.
No. But in general, there are two types of people in the world. There are some people who like to feel emotionally connected before having sex. And there are some people who have sex as a way to feel emotionally connected. And I think that this question is ultimately talking about that second group of people who want to feel emotionally connected through having sex. Like in the middle or right after sex, those are the times that they feel the most emotionally connected. Now, I think a lot of people misunderstand this type because it's so easy for us to write off sex as just a physical act, as it's not as important as emotional intimacy, or it's just this physical thing that we're doing. It's just feeling good. But I will say, as somebody who likes to have sex as a way to feel emotionally connected, it's not just a physical act. It really is the intimacy, the closeness, the vulnerability, the connection that I experience during sex that creates so much of that emotional connection that I feel to you. And so for me personally, if it has been a long time since we've had sex, I will start to feel myself, I don't know if I would say frustrated, but I'll feel myself feeling disconnected from you and feeling like that desire to reconnect with you. Now, that being said, what we do with those feelings is where this gets really tricky. Because what you can't do is use that as a way to pressure, guilt, or manipulate your partner into having sex with you. So the way that this question is phrased gives me a little bit of pause. It's like using the word frustration and also saying standoffish, like I'm getting standoffish with my partner. To me, that implies a little bit of a like, I'm pissed at you, you need to change this, we need to do this type of thing.
Or like, the only way for me to feel better is by having sex.
Yeah. So again, like I am somebody who wants to have that sexual connection first, so I get it. And I have for sure been standoffish with you at times when we've been in dry spells or we're not having sex super regularly. Like,
you get a little standoffish sometimes, like if just like one of us is sick and we haven't done it in a while, and it's like, oh God, it's been so long.
Yeah, so like I get it. It's challenging to know how to navigate those feelings because you're allowed to feel disconnected. You are allowed to want to have sex with your partner again. You are allowed to want to feel close to your partner again in the way that you like to feel close to them.
You're allowed to feel frustrated. Like frustration is a real emotion that you can't just be like, oh, I'm not allowed. This isn't a real thing that I'm allowed to feel because sexual frustration isn't real. Like if you are feeling it, it is real.
But again, you're not allowed to guilt, pressure, manipulate your partner into having sex with you.
Yeah, I mean, this gets me thinking about, for me, it's surfing. For someone else, it might be like golf or something. Like if I'm having a bad day out there and I'm like struggling to, like things just aren't going the way I want them to in my surf session. I'm like falling, not like catching waves or whatever. I can get really frustrated and I can get really single-mindedly focused on, I just got to get one. I just got to get a good one. Like that's the only way. But the reality is it's a tough sport like on your body. And if you're tired or whatever, and like I'm like blowing out my arms, like eventually I'm like, this isn't gonna happen. Like, and so it's like I could push myself until I drown out there
Please
or
don't.
like injure myself. Or I can be like, you know what? Today's not the day. It's not happening today. Or, you know, I think this happens with people playing golf a lot. Like, oh, like I'm just having such a bad day. Like I can't, you know, I'm like way over par. I'm way over my number or whatever.
I thought you were going to talk more about like when you can't go out surfing for a while because the waves aren't good.
Oh, I mean, that happens too. That frustrates me as well. I'm like, why don't I live like in Mexico in the tropics where there's always waves? No, but like, I just think that, yeah, I mean, it's like, think about another, like a hobby or something where you get frustrated and it's like, yeah, you can just force you be like, the only way for me to feel better about myself is if I like hit that shot. But like, how often does that happen? Like, the reality is usually we have to be like, okay, I'm feeling frustrated. Today's not the day. I'm going to come back to this another time. And like, yeah, you could either feel grumpy the entire time until you come back and try it again, or you can take responsibility and be like, hey, I'm feeling frustrated about this. What else can I do to feel good, to soothe myself?
Okay, so there's a number of layers here. Like, yes, part of it is soothing yourself. It's not your partner's job to manage all your feelings to make you feel better. But I also think there's something to be said about how you approach your partner with this. So if you go to your partner with like, it's been 2 weeks, I can't believe we're not having sex, you turned me down the last 3 times, blah, 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 like, that's not good. Don't do that. But you can go to your partner and say something like, hey, I'm really missing you. I know life has been so full and so busy lately, but I'm missing you and the connection that you and I get to have. Can we take a look at our schedules together and figure out some time that we can really have like quality time together? That's a totally different thing. Where again, you're still allowed to feel frustrated, you're allowed to feel disconnected, but you're approaching your partner from a sense of wanting connection with them, from a sense of teamwork. Let's work together rather than I'm frustrated and you have to fix it. Or I'm going to withdraw. I'm going to be standoffish until you give in to me. It's a totally different vibe. So I definitely recommend using that kind of language and yeah, and soothing yourself too. I think that is an important aspect of it. But I want to validate, like, it's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to feel disconnected from your partner. Like, that makes sense. Okay, Xander, how to stop being defensive in my marriage?
Ooh, that's a $1 million question right there.
This one's an entire
Damn.
podcast episode, but
That's what I was about to say.
Let's see what we can do in a few minutes. How do you stop being defensive?
All right, so this is coming from somebody who used to be quite defensive in his marriage, and I still catch myself sometimes with that defensiveness coming up. I do think that this is another mindset shift. Like the broad answer is we got to shift our mindset, similar to the bouncing back after a sexual experience. You know, with that one, it was sort of an acceptance thing. I need to accept that, you know, they're not all going to be perfect. In this case, it's like, it's a mindset shift of, I am going to be wrong in my marriage. I am going to hurt my partner. I am going to say things that I don't mean or that come off differently than how I intended them. I am not going to be perfect in this relationship. And sort of an understanding or, yeah, an acceptance of that. I think that so very often, and you know, at least, I don't know, I can't speak for women. I think like the way that men are socialized, like we can be socialized into being defensive from a very young age. And I think about like, you know, being in elementary school on the playground and like, you know, two kids get into a fight about something, or, you know, one kid like does something to another one. And it's like, you know, what the teachers tell you is like, okay, you have to apologize. And I think that it's this sort of enforced apologizing thing that very quickly solidifies this idea of every time something happens, someone is in the right and someone is in the wrong. And who wants to be in the wrong all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the reality is in relationships is that there's very few times where there's an objective like this person is 100% in the right and this person is 100% in the wrong. In relationships, there are complex dynamics at play.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, yeah, I could say something really hurtful to Vanessa, but also like Vanessa's probably not saying very helpful things, before I say that, or like the way that she reacts to what I say, causes it to get worse, or increase the intensity or whatever. And so it's like for the very vast majority of situations, like there are things that we are both at fault for. I'm putting at fault in air quotes, but like ways that we are both contributing to situations not being the best. Because if you're saying I'm a good man who never hurts his wife and never says anything that I don't mean or or whatever, and then you find yourself in a situation where perhaps you have done something like that, then you kind of just polarize in your head and go, oh no, I'm going to just be defensive and find any kind of excuse for why that didn't happen the way it did. But if we can approach it like, yeah, I expect to hurt you. I expect to screw up. I expect to have to learn and grow and improve. Then there's not so much to be defensive about. It's a, oh shoot, I hurt you. That sucks. Let me actually feel into that, what that feels like. Because it's like feeling that disappointment. Oh my God, that's not what I meant to say, but I can totally see how you interpreted what I said in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that hurts. I can't take that hurt away from you right now. And that feeling, like that gives you the motivation to grow and change.
Oh, there's so much that we could say about this. Let us know if you want us to do a whole episode on defensiveness, because I'm like, my brain's going nuts right now. But come on over to Instagram, Vanessa and Xander, and let us know. So, okay, number one, we have to show our favorite piece of relationship advice that we literally have tattooed on our bodies.
Boom.
The word "and." Mine's really tiny. You're probably not going to see it in the video.
Mine's bigger.
So this is literally my favorite relationship advice. It's the understanding that two things can be true at the same time, even two seemingly conflicting things. So I think often we get to a place of defensiveness because we want to be the one and only right person in the relationship. But your mindset and your relationship will shift completely if you can recognize that two things can be true. I can feel X and Xander can feel Y. There is no one right objective truth. Both of those things are true because we are feeling them. And so I don't have to defend myself or defend my position to the death to be the one and only right truth if I'm recognizing that two things can be true. So that just instantly cuts down the defensiveness. It's like I can hold on to what my experience was, my perspective was, and honor your experience and your perspective at the same time rather than battling them out. I also think a lot about the difference between intent and impact. So I think a lot of times people get defensive when their partner says, you hurt my feelings or you did this to me. And we want to defend ourselves like, I didn't mean to. That's not what I said. I didn't do that. But if we can recognize the difference between intent and impact, yes, I didn't intend to hurt you, but the impact that I did have is that it did hurt you. And it doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't wash away what my intent was. The intent and the impact, it's another and. Like both of those things can be true at the same time. But if we can honor both of those things, that also really cuts defensiveness off at the knees too. And then I also think it's just I don't know how to say it. It's a totally different way of looking at the world. Is just being able to recognize we're going to fuck up. We're going to make mistakes. We're not perfect. I do things to hurt you and annoy you and irritate you all the time. And I love you. I never want to have a negative impact on you. I want you to think I'm the best person on the entire planet. But I'm human and I'm just going to do those things. And so for me, hearing things that I've done, it always sucks. I'm never excited like, oh, amazing, great. I'm so glad I hurt you. I'm so glad to notice yet another fault in myself.
Oh, another learning opportunity. Can't wait.
Fucking learning opportunity. But at the same time, it is also this recognition of, yeah, I'm human and I do make mistakes and I fuck up sometimes. And being able to acknowledge that and take ownership of that has such a big impact on your relationship too, that it makes it feel worth it for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I'm going to just stop us there because there's so much more that could be said, but
that was great. We both had 2 long monologues.
I was feeling a little defensiveness.
I was feeling a little self-conscious. I was like, wow, I just like talked for a while. And then you did too, so it's all good.
It's a big, meaty topic.
It is.
And it's something that makes such a big impact on relationships when we can get rid of our defensiveness. I mean, defensiveness is one of the biggest killers of relationships. It just makes everything feel awful.
Yeah, there's so much available to you if you can. You can't ever get rid of defensiveness completely. It is a very natural human emotion that you are always going to feel to some degree, but it's how we respond to it. But yeah, there's so much more available to you in your relationship, in life, if you can decrease the amount of defensiveness that you approach situations with.
Okay, we're going to have to wrap up here for today, but there's another question that we didn't get around to that I feel like could also be a whole other episode.
Oh, that's a doozy, yeah.
Why do so many married women not want sex, nor do they seem to want it to change? So let us know on Instagram if you want to hear an episode about that, because boy, oh boy, could I go off on a long speech about that one. But I'll say, for now, why don't we point people over to our episode called Maybe It's Not Low Libido.
Yeah.
That's a great starting point. All right, well, we're going to wrap up here. But remember, you can go grab our free guide about the initiation styles over at vmtherapy.com/styles. And we will put that link in the show notes as well.
All right, well, that's it for today's episode of Pillow Talks. Thank you so much for listening. Join us again next week. We can't wait to see you.